Hi, my name is Joe, and I'm a home decor overspender.
Hi, Joe.
I made a breakthrough. I found HomeSense. It's unreal. So many brand name sofas. I bought one.
Oh, wow, really?
It's okay. The prices, so low. Lighting, unexpected. Rugs, handcrafted. Wall art, eclectic. I go back like every week. No, it's always different. New unique decor, same great savings. Every time you go.
Field trip.
HomeSense. Standout pieces, outstanding prices.
Hear that? That's the sound of someone trying to steal your crypto. Every day, thousands of hackers online are doing the same. That's why Arculus uses air-gapped cold storage technology to protect your assets. Using our keycard and wallet app to form a protective barrier, Arculus insulates you from hackers and puts control of your digital assets back in your hands. Order the first truly air-gapped crypto wallet at getarculus.com.
Just like the Cougar football team, Ben Criddle was built, not born. And since 2009, he's built himself into the go-to source on the radio and online for all things BYU. This is Cougar Sports with Ben Criddle on ESPN 960 and ESPN960sports.com.
Welcome back, Cougar Sports, ESPN 960. This is Cougar Country. I'm Ben Criddle, broadcasting live from Larry H. Miller Chrysler Jeep, Dodge, and Ram, where you can test drive any one of these vehicles, get a VIP pass, a free parking pass next to Lavelle Edwards Stadium, and also Megaplex movie tickets. But stop by our Ultimate Tailgate event tomorrow, and you're going to have a grand old time getting ready for that BYU USF matchup. Darnell Dixon by my side. It is time to talk some more BYU USF. And I can't wait for this game because there's a couple of benchmarks I want to look at, Darnell. And I don't know if you're looking at this, but I saw the Tom Homo tweet, and I was like, you know, I think BYU is a little concerned that with the late kickoff, BYU is a top 15 team, that BYU fans aren't going to show up because the opponent isn't as good this week. And they've had 3 consecutive weeks right now where it's a late kickoff. That's kind of tough for family people. You know, you got your faith too tomorrow morning. With a non-paid clergy, it makes it a little bit tougher, right? Because you have to go and maximize and magnify your calling. So I'm wondering how many BYU fans are actually going to show up tomorrow. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about this BYU USF matchup with the individual that's going to be calling the game for ESPN. I love her call. She does a fantastic job. You know her voice. You know her commentary. Let's welcome in the legendary Beth Mowens to the show. Beth, how you doing?
Great, guys. How are you doing?
We're doing fantastic. Excited for your call on Saturday night. When did you hear the news that you'd be calling this BYU game?
We actually just got assigned this week. So, you know, it depends. Sometimes you find out maybe 10 days out. Sometimes we don't find out till Sunday night. And on a rare occasion, sometimes we don't even know until Monday morning where we're headed. So the good thing is I saw BYU a couple times last year. And, you know, it's always a treat to come here. And I will say this here, and you talk about the crowd, guys. After having spoken with USF, they heard from both Utah and Arizona State how the crowd was able to impact the games the last couple of weeks. And they have been preparing for Cougar Nation to be in full bloom and in full throat on Saturday night.
Well, they were loud, no doubt. Utah, ASU, those were both ranked opponents, though, now, Beth. And USF is 1-2 with their only W over Florida A&M. So I don't know if there's going to be as many. I hope it's going to be loud. I hope they've realized the 12th man did impact both of those games and helped BYU to victory. But you've chatted, I believe, with the coaching staffs of both of these crews. Let's start off with BYU. What type of insight did you get from this Cougar coaching staff as you prepare for your call?
Yeah, so we just landed wheels on the ground, and so I'm not sure if anything's changed in the last hour or so. But obviously, I think the first thing is, you know, how much of Jaron Hall, what might we be able to see at quarterback? How much actually, you know, even if he is a 100% go, you know, do the coaches want to get a longer look at Baylor Romney and see how he does? You know, the ties obviously with Baylor back to the 2019 USF game and his first career start that night. So that I think first and foremost, you know, they're well prepared to go with either guy. And I think probably for BYU, they're going to want to try and establish a lot more of the run game moving forward and have that, good balance, regardless of who the quarterback is. And certainly I think that's going to be job number one for USF as well, as they've got to try and control the ball and control the clock with their run game to keep that BYU offense on the sideline.
Yeah, what type of confidence do you think this BYU team has in Baylor Romney if he gets the start? Jaron earned it. Jaron's QB1. Aaron Roderick, offense coordinator, stated after the announcement that Jaron scored more touchdowns and didn't turn the ball over nearly as much as the other two quarterbacks that were in the competition. But how much confidence do you think this coaching staff has in Baylor Romney trotting him out versus USF this week?
I think there's a lot of confidence there, and it goes back to, the fact that he went 3-0 as the starter, a few years ago when he had this opportunity and actually, helped them, pull off the upset over Boise State. So a guy that's been around the program a lot and has been around the system a lot, I don't think there's going to be too much of a hiccup if they did have to go to Baylor moving forward for this game. I think, as you know, and we hear all the time, there's no greater friend to a quarterback that may not have as much experience as there is a run game to support him. And with this receiving core that is so experienced, there's a lot of weapons around him that can certainly boost his confidence with some big plays early.
Beth Mowins, legendary play-by-play announcer here on ESPN 960, and she's going to be calling the game for the Cougs this weekend.
Yeah, Beth, you were talking about BYU's crowd, and all of us last year had to experience games at big stadiums with zero or very few fans because of the pandemic. What's been your experience this year getting back to calling games with the crowd and witnessing that and feeling the surge that goes through the stadium when there's a home crowd involved?
We don't necessarily feel it, guys, at the same level as the players do, but I think for us in the press box and for the fans in the stands, there's no doubt that we all, feel the buzz of that and feed off of that energy. Certainly we as announcers love to ride sort of the ebb and flow of a crowd and the way that there's noise back there and there's energy and enthusiasm back in the stands is a big boost for the players and the enthusiasm that they feel coming into a game. And it's the same kind of for us as well to be a part of that college experience that we've come to love over the years.
Beth, there are some out there that think BYU's overrated. They do have 2 ranked wins. They're 3-0. They have 3 Power 5 wins, the only team in the country to have that. And I think one of maybe 3 teams with 2 ranked wins this season. Do you think that BYU's ranked appropriately? Are they underrated, or are they overrated? Give me your thoughts on this.
I think based on what we saw from the pollsters this week, they took the biggest jump of anybody in the polls. Jumped up 8 spots. So I certainly think there's a lot of respect for what BYU has been able to do so far. There's so much respect around the name nationwide. And I think one of the big differences this year, guys, is perhaps not the pressure to win style points every single week, because the schedule last year, was kind of makeshift as they went, and they didn't have a lot of the big names or the Power 5 opponents. This year, it's a totally different story. They've handled their business against 3 Pac-12 teams already, and if memory serves me, they still have 4 more big names still to go on the schedule. So they're going to have plenty of sort of prove-it points, I think, the rest of the way. A lot is going to depend on how Cincinnati does in a couple of weeks against Notre Dame. I think it's a big game for BYU fans to keep an eye on. And, of course, the challenge is now to handle your business against the teams that you're, quote-unquote, supposed to look good against and fare well against. And I think that's going to be, the test from a maturity standpoint for BYU this week is, how's your focus been coming off of 3 big wins? How's your focus now on an opponent that you actually do have, I think, a little bit to prove for some of those guys that lost to them in Tampa a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I was chatting with an insider from USF earlier today, and he said the highest point in USF football the last few years was that win over BYU, a 4-8 team that got a W over BYU at USF. I'm sure that still kind of hurt some of the guys, some of those players that were in that game that are starters this year at BYU. Hopefully they remember that. Beth Mowins here on ESPN 960, play-by-play voice for the mothership. ESPN going to be calling that BYU-USF matchup this weekend. Beth, BYU just got the invite to the Big 12, and it's been a long time coming to have a seat at the table, the Big Boys Club, right? Over the last 40 years, there's very few teams that have won as many football games, won as many basketball games as BYU. And I think for BYU football, it's like top 10 in wins in college football, and for BYU basketball, top 14 in wins. Why did it take so long for BYU to finally get invited to the Big Boys Club, do you think?
You know, I'm not quite sure about that. Living on the West Coast the last decade or so, there's so much behind the scenes that we're not aware of, right? But it seemed, to be a bit of a no-brainer that a BYU and a San Diego State and a Boise State, when the first expansion, there seemed to be some teams that made a lot of sense to get to 16 in the Pac-12 even. And so, the behind-the-scenes machinations, I know a lot of it, too, has to do with you don't want to bring in a team that could be taking away your recruits or could be recruiting in fertile ground that you've always hit upon. From a basketball standpoint, first and foremost, as a fellow upstate New Yorker, I'm excited to see Jimmer Fredette this weekend back in town. Always good to see him around the Cougar campus. I think it's an exciting time. I think with the pause in the playoff committee this week, I think that obviously has a lot to do with the moves concerning Oklahoma and Texas, and now the moves that the Big 12 is making to try and match that. So I think the big question moving forward is what's that playoff going to look like, and is it going to be an automatic bid for the Big 12? Because I think BYU, you hunt for that, year in and year out.
Beth, just kind of a personal question for you. Is there a particular sport that you enjoy calling the most? Is there like one that you just kind of like, I just love calling basketball or baseball or football games? Is there one you gravitate towards more than the other?
I like to say basketball is kind of home for me. I grew up in a basketball house. My dad was a high school coach. But I also grew up with three brothers, and our whole neighborhood of young kids in the neighborhood all played sports. I talked to my good friend Holly Rowe about that a lot, and I was so thrilled for Holly to be able to, have a homecoming with the Jazz announced earlier today.
Yep.
So basketball is home for me. Football is, the once a week, the build up, the energy around that makes football very special. And probably I would say one of the great events that I work year in and year out is the Women's College World Series, and what we've been able to build as a company, as a brand, to build college softball and the World Series to what it's become. It's one of those things that you mark down on the calendar each and every year.
You mentioned Holly, and she's got close ties with BYU as well, the state of Utah. You and her, you guys are pioneers in this broadcasting and reporting game. And you were the first woman to call, I think, a National Football League game, and something 30-odd years it took for you for you to represent your gender on the airwaves and on the television. And so when you're mentoring the females that are trying to endeavor to make an impact in this very highly competitive world that we all live in, what words of advice do you try to give them?
I think first and foremost, you've got to be passionate about it. There are a lot of different directions you can go within our industry, and so try and pinpoint what you want to do as early as you can, whether that's play-by-play or an analyst or a reporter or a host or an anchor, and then go after it with everything you got. You've got to earn those opportunities. I come from I played growing up, so my sense is, you've got to earn the respect of your coworkers. You got to earn the respect of your coaches, if you will, your bosses. and get your foot in the door somewhere, and then just start bugging people. Hey, can I get a shot at this? Give me a shot at that, and hopefully, when that moment comes for you to earn that respect and show people what you can do, you're at your best. I think what we've seen over the years, guys, is no matter who you are, if you see it, you can be it, and that's kind of the big thing. I think as we move forward to see, people that are all different shapes, sizes, and colors and backgrounds that can do something, and if that's what you love to do, to chase it with all you've got.
I love those words of advice. Very powerful. Beth Mowens here on ESPN 960. I want to get your thoughts on it. I know it's not something you probably traditionally do, but there's a few things that have happened this last year that I would love to get your insight on. Name, image, and likeness was thought to potentially ruin collegiate athletics. To be determined, right? We'll see kind of what happens. So, number one, I want to get your thoughts on just general name, image, and likeness, and how it's going to impact college athletics. And then I want to follow up with that with another question, because many people also thought that only men's football and only men's basketball were going to be impacted by this, and I don't think we're seeing that. I think we're seeing it cross over. And we've seen it here at BYU. It's crossed over into the female athletic realm. So, number one, name, image, and likeness, and then I want to follow up with it.
Yeah, well, I think there are some things that are really encouraging about it. First and foremost is the ability to help not only one guy or, just the quarterback or the star basketball player, but what we're seeing now where companies or boosters are stepping up and paying for every walk-on to be put on scholarship. That's what a great idea, what a great way to handle that. The better we can educate people and have them leaving college with less debt, are two big positive check marks. I think, too, when we first looked at name, image, and likeness, we were kind of looking at it old school, like, picking up a paycheck to go do a TV commercial for a local pizza joint, or to go get your face on a billboard for the local car dealer. Those avenues are still available, but I think we vastly underestimated the power of social media and, the ability for what we've seen a lot of female athletes, gymnasts, softball players, basketball players, that on social media are reaching as big, if not bigger, audiences than a lot of the guys are. And the money through name, image, and likeness that is now available through social media, I think, has opened up a lot of avenues. The last thing is, I'd love to see, if it is a quarterback that gets the opportunity, that he shares that money that comes into him with his backfield or with his offensive line, or taking the whole offense out to dinner. Those are the kinds of things that really have me encouraged about, the younger generation is doing some amazing things, and they're doing it together.
Yep.
I really love to see that.
Yeah, I like that, and it's something that Jaron and I think Baylor have both tweeted out on their social media, say, hey, we want to take care of our offensive linemen. Let's get some sponsors behind those guys as well. What was really cool this week is a company by the name of Smarty Streets came in and sponsored $6,000 per student athlete, per female student athlete within BYU's athletic department. Almost a $2 million investment from Smarty Streets, over 300 BYU female student athletes, and it was awesome to see. Like, this is an iconic time and a remarkable time in BYU athletics, but also collegiate athletics, where you're seeing not only these big time sports getting paid for and these individuals getting paid, but also the female athletes.
Yeah, and that's really something that has been cool to see. And the joint effort, the ability for a whole sort of community to get behind these and to get involved has been great to see. And, I go back to, I think one of the biggest name, image, and likeness winners out there is a pitcher at Alabama, Montana Fouts. When the men's and women's basketball tournaments were running simultaneously, a UConn women's player is getting just as much as, one of the Gonzaga guys was, and they're best friends growing up in Minneapolis, Paige Akers and Jalen Suggs. So those are the kinds of things that I think can be really cool about this. Obviously, there are some long-term effects. There are some, behind closed doors and behind the big curtain that, we don't know about yet. And hopefully those kinds of things don't really tip scales in terms of recruiting and things like that. So hopefully it continues to be positive in that regard.
Beth Mowens, ladies and gentlemen. Beth, we appreciate your time today. Very insightful. Loved getting to know you a little bit better. Last thing for you, if USF is to triumph over the Cougars at LaVell Edwards Stadium, what are some of the keys to victory for USF, and what challenges do you think they pose to the Cougs?
They have to be able to deal with the crowd if that is going to be something that comes into play. They've been working on that all week. They've got to be able to run. BYU will see a lot. It comes down to your eye discipline on the defensive side, and they do have a really agile and active and mobile quarterback that could be problematic. So they have a couple of good running backs. They have one really good wide receiver. Their top receiver is out for the season, unfortunately, with an injury. So that they will have to rely heavily on those big playmakers in order to have a shot. I think they'd have to score with BYU to do it. Got
to keep up. Beth, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today. Let us know how we can support you. Please follow Beth on Twitter, and make sure you're listening to the call tomorrow night on ESPN2. Thanks so much, Beth.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Darnell.
Thank you, Beth Mowens, ladies and gentlemen. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I talked to some of the BYU women's volleyball players last night, and Heather Olmstead. They beat Pacific 3-0. I wanted to talk to them about this Smarty Streets thing. And one of the things I hadn't really thought about, and Heather mentioned this, because I said, what do you think they'll spend this money on? Because she's got 12 scholarship players, plus she has a couple other super seniors that came back, doesn't count against the scholarship. So they're pretty much fully funded for their roster, but it's going to help, some of the walk-ons and freshmen and all that. But she said something about, being able to fly your family to a game.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool,
That's
right?
big
To
time.
be able to do that. And that was always something that was frowned upon by the NCAA, and where'd they get the money and all this suspicion. Now it's going to be a regular thing where if you've got some extra cash, you can go, hey, I can get my car fixed maybe if they have a car, or I can send my mom and dad. I can bring them to a game when they maybe couldn't have gone because of other circumstances. So it's a fantastic thing. The girls were super grateful for the opportunity. They had to get up at 6 a.m. to get to the hotel by 7, and they had no idea what was going to happen here. They were little, and of course, they'd never heard of Smarty Streets because Smarty Streets serves business customers.
Yeah,
right.
It's B2B.
Yeah, it's B2B.
It's not business,
so
not
it was something completely new for them, but certainly an amazing opportunity for these student athletes to feel appreciated because they work as hard, if not harder sometimes, than some of the male athletes who get all the money and all the glory and all the attention. This gives them an opportunity to realize, hey, I'm working and I'm getting closer. And the other thing Heather said was this helps these girls prepare for, and this is what BYU wants to do, is to help them prepare for life after volleyball, whether they become a mother or a CEO or a professional volleyball player, whatever it happens to be. This is an opportunity for BYU to step in and give them some ideas of what they might be doing in 3, 4, 5 years.
No, it's a great breakdown. We'll go to break. What's cooking with the Cougars coming up next? This is Cougar Sports on 94.5 FM and ESPN 960.
Welcome. We're here with Jess, who is enjoying a cozy night in.
That's right, and she's lighting up. Is that candle?
Triple wick pumpkin spiced? Yes.
Oh, she is setting the harvest mood.
Is that a tasteful autumnal wreath?
Someone's been to Marshall's again.
Well, with quality home decor at great prices, what's stopping her? Oh, and a cozy blanket to top it all off.
That is so fall. Better get to Marshall's.
Fabulous brands.
Feel good prices at Marshall's.
Hear that? That's the sound of someone trying to steal your crypto. Every day, thousands of hackers online are doing the same. That's why Arculus uses air-gapped cold storage technology to protect your assets. Using our keycard and wallet app to form a protective barrier, Arculus insulates you from hackers and puts control of your digital assets back in your hands. Order the first truly air-gapped crypto wallet at getarculus.com.